Hey, guys. We're back.
Hello!
How are you all?
Yeah. I'm good.
Yeah.
Had a lot of discussions today, Stuart. Tune in for some fun videos to come.
Yes.
Deep dive breakdowns, tech, and story related as we do. Go check those out. Support them if you can by commenting and sharing. But do comment, because commenting helps the algorithm on YouTube. So do take a look, a listen, and a comment if you can. It does help.
Absolutely.
And it gets straight to sharing as well.
You're going to go straight to sharing.
Straight to sharing.
I'm going to tell you guys, 20 of you to hit like. We have 9 likes, which is awesome. Hit like. And make sure to subscribe to the channel. Click the bell notification icon. Do all the things. And super chat in during this live. We want to hear your thoughts on this. We're talking about... we're just talking about the worst Trek movies. Obviously, Section 31 wins that. So there's no argument or no debate here about that. We're just having a discussion. So, yeah. If you don't understand what we're doing here, I apologize. But obviously, some of you, based on the comments, don't get what we're going for with this discussion. That's fine. Oh, Mark is jury dutying. Well, good luck. Hopefully, you don't get. Yeah, it's just awful. Anyway, so yeah, welcome back, and make sure that you click the join button down below. There's a join button down there to join the channel, or head on over to Patreon/Trekyards. It's another way you can support us on a monthly basis. We really appreciate any and all that you can do, but super chatting and hitting like is the best ways to help us out, so please do so. And yeah, links down below to the Teespring and the TeePublic store, and we're going to hopefully have a good discussion. I just want to caveat and start out by saying, obviously, Section 31 is the worst Star Trek movie because it's clearly not really Star Trek. But the argument was brought up yesterday during our live where it's like, what about Star Trek 5? Not yesterday, sorry, on Sunday. What about Star Trek 5? Is this no longer the worst? And it's like, no, it's clearly not. Somebody brought up the very short treks, and that's like, ooh, that's questionable. But yeah, we're gonna just talk today. I don't know what we're gonna do, how we're gonna structure it exactly. This was kind of Sam's idea, so we're gonna see what kind of discussions we can have. We do want to talk about the JJ movies as well, because again, kind of divisive. And but we do have another live coming up specifically about Section 31 compared to the JJ films. So we'll see how that goes. Hey, Judge is here. Hello. Yes. What would Section 31 need with a starship? Worse than Star Trek 5? Yes, Star Trek 5 was enjoyable. Totally agree, Philip Gaming. I kind of hate this thumbnail because it's confusing everybody and it's having us to justify, ooh, which is worse. It's not. That's not the case. I've always liked Star Trek 5. It's one of my favorites. Not one of my favorite. It doesn't get as much hate, or it gets too much hate compared to what I think it should get. But anyway,
I'm back.
Holy shit, he's back.
Oh, yes. Dramatic.
43 people here now, which is great. 20 likes. Hit the like button, guys.
Yes, we are going to be talking about... I mean, have we given the spiel?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. The classic Trek movies. There are the good ones, of course. They're the great ones. There are the missed opportunities. And there are the everything in between. A lot of bad ones, but none of them are really bad. They're just bad on a scale. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that all of the less good Trek movies all have very strong bits in them. None of them have like a constant level of Blair. There's bits that are actually really, really good. Like objectively,
Yes.
that works super well, or that scene, or that art design, just really, really good. And then other stuff that absolutely pulls down the trajectory. There's other films where it either is all good or you know, etc., etc. So this is an interesting, will be an interesting debate. I'm going to bring you guys into it as well.
Well, Philip Gaming just jumps in and says Into Darkness is the worst one. Well, we'll talk about the JJ films in another live.
Do you guys have stuff to say and things to talk about? Then yes, we will.
Yeah. But Olivia throws in $10. So thank you, Olivia.
Thank you.
Hey, us, remember? Anything Star Trek coming out means Star Trek is still alive in Paramount eyes. We still need to support it, so Paramount wants to make more possibly good films.
The problem is if you support bad stuff
Yes.
in the hope of getting good stuff, the chance of making bad stuff is higher. If you don't support bad stuff, it goes away. Then someday when they want to make money, they'll make good stuff because someone had a really good idea. It's like, I'm not going to support more very short treks because they were for the most part bad. And they've gone away and there's no chance of more because they're bad. So I'm not going to support bad stuff for the sake of it in the case we get good stuff, because if you've only got 10 million in budget and they put 6 towards bad stuff, we've just lost 6 million when, yeah. So no, I'm not going to quite agree on that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Judge 1981 throws in $5 and says, have to say it, Star Trek 1.
We are going to get there. We are going to go through them.
And Mark Lawrence, $10.
Look!
As a sci-fi movie, it's middle of the road. As a Trek movie, not great. There are some parts that made me chuckle. Liked the Comaloids. That's not how you spell it, but that's okay. Character. Garrett was a good casting, but Star Trek 5 is greater than Section 31. Well, absolutely, yes. You should have put more in the thumbnail, actually. I think people are just thinking we're comparing these two now.
Sometimes people like clean thumbnails. But let's, I guess, start with TMP. And I brought some images, to remind you of the movie. Some of the things that, were not quite necessarily as well done. With a slow opening, potentially. Deca in general. The costumes. Some of the art design. And the long Vija. And maybe the framing of the end. It's got some weaker elements to it, and these are some of the ones that you might classify. So how does Section 31 compare to TMP, which is not the strongest start?
Oddly enough, that's funny, because Section 31 is supposed to be a series or a season, compressed into a movie. The motion picture was supposed to be an episode, expanded into a movie.
Yeah, because obviously back in those days you wouldn't have a season arc. So yes, it was an opening to a series, and then or three sort of story ideas shoved together that all kind of whatnot.
Star Trek: The Motionless Picture, where Nomad had gone before.
In fact, let's go straight into the poll as well for that.
Go for it. Well, yeah, I mean, the thing with the motion picture is it had been quite some time since we'd seen the original cast and just Star Trek. It was just Star Trek. And so they wanted to do something different, and they had a bigger budget because it was on a motion picture level, so they definitely ramped things up and changed a lot of things, because it was going to be phase 2, which looked a lot more like TOS because they were scaling back the budget for sets and stuff, and then they just changed everything up. So obviously a different look for the motion picture, but not bad at the time. It's like, this is something new and different. So there you go. We have a poll up as well, guys. Go vote on that. Which is worse, Star Trek TMP or Star Trek Section 31?
Because we're here to, have the honest conversation. I mean, we didn't debate these last time, because when you left, Marie was here, and she'd watched 3 movies, this being a 4th, and I think she said overall she liked TMP less. Said less story, or at least, there's a lot of nothing, and boredom can be worse than bad quality. Which I can see, if you're not into the franchise, then a movie that is dull. I know that we found the last third boring, but there's a lot of TMP which is more than a third. If you break down in minutes, but we like a lot of that stuff as Trek fans. But it is more than a third boring, right?
Olivia Julius, $2. TMP had way too long of a tour of the Enterprise. Incorrect.
Shut your whole mouth.
Yeah.
Could have been done differently, but it was beautiful. Yeah, so how would you compare these two as sort of feature films, quality? They both do things poorly. How do you compare this compared to that?
Well, one looks like a motion picture for the big screen. The other does not at all. It doesn't even look like a movie quality for streaming, in my opinion. Um, one had. Well, see, it's an odd one to talk about though, because this
Yeah,
is
very.
bringing back Star Trek after it had been canceled and was off. It was gone for years. Like it's reestablishing Star Trek. Whereas Section 31 is just a spin-off. It's taking advantage of what had been created in Discovery and just using it. It's kind of hard to compare the two because it's a
But
totally different landscape.
but these are abstract. But I'm saying as a quality movie, right? It's like you can
Well,
judge. It's like you can judge each through Christopher Nolan film by itself, because even though they follow some story
Yeah.
plot, they're all separate. So yes, it's fine to say of the three, but they are all individual. You can compare one Tim Burton to one Nolan without
Yeah.
the extra, right?
Even though the motion picture has a lot of segments that are just special effects heavy and long and drawn out and boring, and it's not absolutely clear what the hell's happening, at least it looks beautiful. There's a lot to look at. They take their time with things. They linger on things. They have character moments. Section 31, like I've said all along, is a visual mess. The color grading is awful. A lot of the cinema choices for cinematography that they chose, I think, were bad. It was not a well crafted story, and it wasn't delivered at all well. Motion picture gets better with the director's cut. You can see what he was originally going for, but yeah, the visuals are much nicer in the motion picture, except for the drab uniforms, which don't really do much for anybody. But
yeah, it's fair to say the alien Trek stuff looks gorgeous in TMP, but the sets are dull, costumes are dull. None of that stuff's good. It's interesting, but it's certainly not good, and it's just as drab as Section 31 stuff. I mean, he should have known, don't have your crotch on display, right? Simple mistakes they're making. And why is Ilea over-sexualized? Why are her legs as long as whatever? These are obviously just bad choices they made, right? And obviously I'm devil's advocate him just in comparison, right? But this certainly does not win up production design for the human stuff. But, it was being different. Alien, though, yeah, as you say, totally different. Budget-wise, I don't know the budget of Section 31, but if Michelle Yeoh got 14 million, hopefully she's not getting half the budget. That would be depressing as all hell. Hopefully only a third of the budget, which is still kind of depressing, but it's got to be, 70 million, which is way more than TMP cost. Different landscape, though. I'm sure way more people were paid more in this.
yeah, Chuck A throws in $2. The other Star Trek films are at least Star Trek. Yes, that's the other thing.
This one's so Star Trek, it's dull. In the abstract, just sciencey stuff.
Yeah.
There's less mass murder. No, well, is there less mass murder in TMP? They never say in the main story that it's a D compiler. In TMP Classic, they just kill them. So they do kill Epsilon and all the Klingons, and that's how the original, how it's presented, right? So there is lots of mass murder.
Yeah, but it's an alien thing doing that. It's not our main characters that are killing people.
Well, no, I know, but they're just saying mass murder quota. There's still quite a lot of mass murder at the start of. It's got a cold open where 3 Katingas are killed. Mass murder starts both things. Phoenix, nothing in TMP contradicts TOS continuity. The Klingons look entirely different.
Yep.
So.
And a lot of people say the whole movie is a visual retcon. That's how the Enterprise was supposed to look in the series. That's a stupid mindset I don't understand.
It's not
but some people have that thought.
Yeah.
It's obviously a different visual continuity. It's like, no, it's not.
Just later.
They explain.
Just time
refit.
has passed.
Yeah.
The actors look older. The ship looks different. That's how things are. They evolve and they pass, and that's fine.
Yeah. Everett Harris says TMP was recently remastered and briefly had a theatrical release. And in my opinion, this is the best looking Enterprise I've ever seen. That alone is enough to make it much better than Section 31. Yes, it has an Enterprise. Beautiful ship to look at. If we get a chance to see a ship in Section 31, it lasts for 2 seconds, or it's in a nebula. It's not great. They don't linger on ships.
It is a very anti-ship show. It was funny. It was very easy to find the things that people don't like about the other movies. I'm scrolling Insurrection, and there's nothing actually people don't like visually. Like, you can't summarize the plot line very much. You know, the grander issue. I'm scrolling. It's like, well, people don't hate this or this or this. There's actually very little to picture for that.
79 of you here.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining us. 35 likes. Hit the like button. Chime in. Let us know your thoughts about the motion picture.
Yeah. Because, I mean, it's a weak-ish movie-ish, but it does its own unique thing, right? It's so different. Like,
Yes.
you'd be hard-pressed to do this now, but you'd be hard-pressed to do it then, to be honest, but it was such a spectacle, right? It's kind of like Avatar 1. It's spectacle over substance, with a lovely message in the middle. Like, I'm talking broad allegory, right?
Yeah.
But obviously this is a bit of a cultural footprint, luckily.
Yeah.
But they're at least somewhat comparable, these two, because they're weirdly made films in weird ways with very odd choices that are very also standalone in their own way. At least these other movies we're going to look at all have a... Now we know the art design, now we know the aesthetic. This is so different. So I think it's probably a decent contender to... Well,
We also didn't go into this thinking, oh, we're going to make a shit ton of movies. They thought, okay, we're going to bring Star Trek to make a movie and see how it does. And then when it performed really well, they're like, we'll make another one.
And change everything about it because the people didn't like the first one. You know.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because if they do Section 301 2, just change everything about it. That's the lesson. Put the Muslim Maroons as well. Easy.
BJ, $2. Nemesis worst film. Had more hope for it than Section 31. Oh, yeah, hope. Going in with hope for something. They need to remaster the motion picture put Monster Maroons on everybody.
But you'd miss Decker's bulge. Right?
I mean, you might.
I might not. It's just funny. Because you could have taken that out in the director's cut as well. Smooth out the bulge. Wouldn't be that difficult. Just saying.
I guess.
So that's our first look at TMP. Now, as you can see, my Star Trek 5 look-through significantly more broad because there's a lot more elements to it which are not quite as good. From, you know, some people don't like the characters, some people don't like Scotty and her relationship, some people don't like CGI, some people, I mean, you know, we talk about cheap sets. In the Turbolift, there's just a screen and there's no effort whatsoever in hiding it. That's a bad design. Uhura's dance is dumb. The canteen is Star Wars. Cyborg's plan. They reuse TNG sets without doing anything to them. That's lazy. Scotty's out of character. The entire elevator and then all the god stuff. So there's a lot more in this that people have problems with, as evident by the list here. So how do these problems compare? Because there's a big one, of course, that people would compare to Star Trek 5 versus Section 31.
Well, Ninja Chris 77 says, are we really questioning if it's the worst movie? I'd rather watch the JJ movies, and they're bad in my opinion. Well, join us for that live, where we talk about this compared to the JJ movies. Anyway,
yeah.
Sean O'Sullivan, €2. I don't like Kurtzman. He's coarse and rough and irritating, and he gets everywhere. Yeah. And Fleet Paws here. Fears be gone. Fleet Paws come along.
Good. Less fear. Good.
So,
and I guess the poll, therefore. So we had 69 votes. Which is worse, TMP or Star Trek Section 31? 90% vote Section 31, and 10% vote TMP. Interesting.
So the next poll, we'll go vote on that. So it'll obviously be which is worse, Star Trek 5 or Section 31. But anyway, going back to what Sam asked me about Star Trek 5, I mean, Star Trek 5 gets a lot of hate. And yeah, it could be argued that it is probably the worst of the original series set of movies. Sure. I don't think it deserves all the hate it gets, and a lot of the reasons that people give for it, hating it are valid, and I agree. But it still feels like Star Trek, and that's one of the reasons that I really like it, because it has a return to form of kind of a TOS styled episode with Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. Their relationship is really focused on, heavily on. Also, unlike some TOS, it focuses, every character has something to do. Chekhov gets put in command for a little while. Uhura gets to like fan dance and do other things. Sulu gets to fly in the shuttle on manual. Like, everybody's got something to do. Scotty, unfortunately, kind of gets a little bit out of character, as Sam said there. The whole relationship with Uhura and the swagger of clunking his head, which is just it's made for laughs, and that's fine. But it feels more Star Trek than Section 31 easily. I actually think that a lot of the elements of Star Trek V feel more Star Trek than some of the other Star Trek movies, as far as the interpersonal relationship, like, of the three main characters, and it goes back to the TOS days. So I don't know. If we want to address all these things individually, I mean, even the God thing, even them going after God, it's a very TOS plot. Like, it's got such a good Star Trek structure to this movie, and I think it's done fairly well. The only thing is, you didn't have a stable budget going into it, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So,
but to address Devereaux, it's funny we are more accepting of Sybok than we are of Burnham. Yes, easily, because Sybok is knew him for a few years and then left and never saw him again. So the imprint of his life was very minor. And he's also a renegade, and people talk about him. Easy. Simple. Bit weird. Fine. Burnham was older than Spock, joined Starfleet before Spock, had a higher rank than Spock, did a ship before Spock, did a mutiny. All these things were known that she was the sister of Spock. There was no secret. She was easily Googleable. Her footprint was massively more, and she also helped define his psyche. Yes. Massively different and worse. If she was a secret, like, unnamed... I was adopted and then I left the home 6 months later and no one talked about it, or I'm a Vulcan and illegitimate and I was never taught. Fine, but she was talked about, she was known, she was famous. Nope, it's a lot worse.
Yes.
I wanted to address that. Doesn't make sense.
BJ, $2. Star Trek V is my fourth favorite film after 2, 3, and 4. Okay. Fleet Paw, $2. I don't want my pain taken away. I need my pain. And Sean O'Sullivan, €2 or £2, sorry, euros, whatever. Section 31 budget would pay for a DS9 remaster.
Yeah, I mean, Michelle Yeoh's salary would pay for a lot of a DS9 remaster.
Well, apparently, it was an $80 million budget for this movie, for Section 31.
It's quite a lot.
And Michelle Yeoh took
14.
Yeah.
80. Yeah. I mean, it's quite low for a sci-fi feature film, but I'm not quite sure where that went. It doesn't feel like an 80 million.
No, it absolutely does not.
I get, and it's funny because we talk about in our review, things like that trash scene, like just to build that one set and fill it with stuff is expensive because there's a lot of stuff in it, and it was so little used. It was such a relative waste of money for what it was. Yeah, crazy. But yeah, Star Trek V, I mean, what it does and all these images reflect, it's just a stupider Star Trek movie where it doesn't utilize the more, we trust your intelligence of past films. It's going for the more, but yeah, just less well thought out approach where things don't have to make sense, they just are. And that, that hurts it because Trek is most of the time more elevated, and this brings down to a lower denominator, so it feels more abstractly out of place because a lot of things are just dumb. They don't have to be. But that's, Shatner is going for a different sort of film, like TMP, right? TMP is slow and dull. This is dumb and silly. But they're not, you could argue that, Star Trek 4 is cheap and gritty. I don't know. TMP, but constantly gritty. They're all doing something different, right? So is it successful? No, but it's not worth a punt, right?
No.
And I'm not going to berate them too much for less good CG. I mean, look at other films of the time. Some are good, some are bad. It's a variable field, right? It's like, it's not great. It's 1980, whatever. Yes, they made better CG the previous film, but they couldn't get the company. Okay. Sucks. They did do some fun tricks, like the reverse shot of this TMP on the moon, which is a famous shot. I love it. I think it's a lovely style of shot. You know, seeing the CGI, the model work is just reflected on the glass of the cockpit to show the reverse shot. It's just a physical, just printed out and, right, whatever, projected it. Nice. Having the real view screens. Yes, they're way too bright because they can't get the dark levels, but it's cool to see real screen projections. That's a nice thing. They tried some fun stuff. Did it quite work? Maybe not, but it was kind of cool, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd make the argument that Star Trek 5 at least has so many good Star Trek elements to it. We get some new shots of the Enterprise. We get some interesting, you know, it's a new visual effects company doing it, so you get kind of a new feel for things. Plus seeing it in orbit above planet Shakari.
Yeah, weird that.
And, yeah, and having the bird of prey like in it side by side. Like there's some beautiful things in it that really stand out in Star Trek for me, which is one of the reasons I don't hate the film as much as a lot of people. So
well, that's why we're debating weakest, right? They're all good in different ways, but this has a lot of weak elements. And like I said, if we're going to call out the Station 31 for their bad tricorder design, you got to call out Star Trek 5, like I say, for that shot of Bones. They just shoved a monitor in a hole and thought we wouldn't notice a monitor in a hole and expect that. Like that, obviously, that's a bad. Like what have you done? Especially as it's come out of a giant, amazing shuttle base set, and they cheaped out on not putting a frame over the screen. Like, you know, both movies can make bad production decisions that are just bad, right? And then, you know, the turbolift sequence. I mean, that is there anything? Is there anything as Section 31 that is as stupid as the turbolift sequence? Because you can't justify it. There's nothing except it was bad editing, bad direction, and bad filming. They just made a bad scene that no one caught.
It's not stupid. The one in Star Trek 5 is just a production error. It's just people that decorated the set didn't understand how big a starship was, and then the editing is awful. It's not like it was intentionally stupid.
Well, no, but the editor should have caught it and just not use those clips. And I guess they can't reshoot it necessarily, but like they kept the edit in, right? You work around it. They you know, they didn't notice and they kept it through. I doubt Shatner cared. They swapped decks, right? Was there anything as bad as that in Section 31?
Yeah, sand not aging. Planet being conveniently close to the nebula.
Yeah.
The garbage cow catching up to an actual Terran Empire ship with time to spare for this convergence of the ion storms.
Okay.
It's stuff that, but that's one of the things. Those are problems that a lot of modern shows and movies suffer from because they just don't care. Star Trek 5, I think, is totally unforgivable, or forgivable, sorry. They wanted to make something funny, and as a result, the editing made it extended way too long. It didn't have to be as long a sequence.
Well, it's funny. I'd love to see, because this would be super easiest scene to build in CG and do it for 1-to-1 scale. It'd actually be really interesting to see how long it would actually take to go up in actual scale.
Somebody re-edited it. It's on YouTube. It's like a few years old, and they kind of figured that out. So yeah,
because it's not as long as a show, but that's because the ship's not as tall as it appears. But that'd be interesting if you can even go 10 seconds, because it's not that tall a ship in the grand scheme.
No,
I wonder.
But anyway, yeah. So that's my thoughts on that kind of stuff.
But you're right. Like, what's more of a sin if the set person, editor, director, and screeners, none of them noticed the glaring, I mean, it's right in your face, you can't miss it, they all missed it, issue, or the script writer who had these flaws, and then the writer and editor, those people left it in. Like, what's more, because the writer had no thing, you know, they didn't do that, and writing's often more, like, you fix stuff in writing, right? Yeah. Like, plot holes are invented, and they're kept in, and those are plot holes.
It got through too many people to I don't understand. So it'd be set decorated. People had to walk around the set and go, okay, yeah, that's good. And then it had to go, like you said, through filming, through the actors being there. Not that the actors know how many decks are in the Enterprise.
No, that's not. Well, what is the director who fed us?
There's only like 24.
What is the director who you know, he should know, but yeah, that's a little bit different.
But, and even how they're numbered, like they don't go that way, they go the opposite way.
Yeah. My assumption about that whole scene, I've never heard this, is that it really must be a case of they didn't have any money to fix it in any way they could, so they had to leave it in, and that was it. There was nothing else there, and it didn't matter if it was bad because that was the least of the film's problems. So now we could fix it in post super easily. And you would do it, and it'd be easy. But they just couldn't afford to do it then, and they certainly can't rebuild the set, refill, like, they can't do that. That's what I assume the issue is, which makes it more horrendous than Section 31, where these are giant plot problems that they could fix with a line in ADR, which means you could bring back the actor for a quick afternoon, 2 months from release, and redo ADR. Like, it is really fixable, you know? So,
yeah,
I'm trying to work out what's the more issues.
Ray Ricks, £10.
Right.
Just joined. Section 31 is worse. Star Trek 5 at least tries to be Star Trek, even with its faults. Good scenes with Bones and his dead. You mean his dad?
His dead.
The sabotage of the transwarp drive, and all the Kirk Bones Spock scenes. The sabotage of the transwarp drive is in Star Trek 3, though.
Apart from that. And I believe, Ray, can we say what day it is? Because if it is, let us know and we'll say what day it is. Up to you. Don't know if you want
to... Fleet Paw, member for 57 months at the rank of captain. Remember the days of only having 1 or 2 executive producers? Pepperidge Farms remembers. Can we go back to not having 9,000 episodes and to not having 9,000 executive producers and put that money into the writer's room with competent writers? Good CG folks. Matt Boardman, perhaps. Sam.
I mean, hey. Stuart can write some cool stuff too.
No, I can't.
There we go. And also, Rusk Knuckles says, technical errors are more forgivable than objectively bad stories. The problem is Star Trek 5 might be an objectively bad story as well, because think about all the layers to get to God and what he is. Like, it's not exactly... You know what I mean? It's still not... I wouldn't say it's a good story. And, like, you can't get to the middle of the galaxy in a day. You can't do that. Like, these things you can't do.
But it's a Star Trek story. Does God exist? Is God an alien? It's not...
Luckily, he's an alien,
look,
not God.
A galaxy-destroying thing. Let's stop this bomb from destroying a quadrant. Which is what all new Star Trek is, which isn't Trek. That's not what Trek's
about.
And
Nemesis, and Star Trek 2, and 6, Bird of Prey. Kind of.
Star Trek 2 is about revenge.
Well, I mean, the Genesis device, that's a doomsday weapon.
Yes, but that's not the point of the movie.
No, but I'm just saying there is still, like, I'm trying to be as fair as possible, right? Those are going to call out both sides here.
BJ, $5. There's a great book on the making of Star Trek 5 by Shatner's daughter, not the yeoman in the film Another Daughter, and might be the only such book.
Yeah. And I've listened to his so William Shatner, the director's, his autobiography and the commentary for 5. Both are super interesting about Star Trek 5. Like, obviously, every narrative is a first-person one, so his perspective was that he was not betrayed, but, you know, he's obviously going to look at it from his perspective, not the studios, not people might have been warning about X, Y, and Z to not do. But having heard his perspective, you really feel sorry for him as a director. As you said at the start of this discussion, his budget got stripped horrifically, and I think about filming days, like all the things that came against him, if he had the originally agreed upon criterion, he would have made a better film. A lot of it was budget related because you know, I mean, meeting God is the concept. You think you need a big budget for that. And you cutting it at the end. I mean, I quite like the simplicity of the ending. I mean, yes, of course, him running away from laser eyes is dumb, but everything before that, I wouldn't have needed rock monsters, an extra action scene personally. But there's something clever to do there.
Yeah.
We talk about, you know, cinematography as well. You said how muddy Star Trek Section 31 is.
Yeah.
The bridge on 5, the Enterprise bridge, nice bridge. Clean and simple, effective. I really like the opening on Nimbus. Well shot, looks nice, effective.
Oh. One thing I want to jump in with before I forget again, because I was going to mention earlier and forgot.
Sorry.
We were talking about the turbolift scene. There's 2 turbolift scenes in Star Trek 5 that are fucking atrocious. One where they come up from the plant from camping, from the shuttle bay, get in the turbolift, turn, and they're on the bridge already. The speed of that turbolift ride would have snapped their necks. Oh, inertial dampeners in the turbolift. So there's the other one. That's an egregious call out. Same thing happens in 2009.
Yes, it does.
But
That's
anyway,
that's
sorry.
funny. No, that's great. That's great. I mean, I guess they finally said we need to reverse the turbolift ride from with Spock and the Romulan commander. Yeah. That took 6 minutes. Let's just reverse that for this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, there's other stuff like that, but I mean those are typical movie mistakes that you see in a lot of different movies, even really good ones. So
Well, yeah, I mean, really good ones try and not let them through in editing and such. But yeah, it's a sliding scale, isn't it?
that was another comedy moment, though. It's like, I need a shower. Yes,
Yeah,
that's what that whole turbolift scene was, pretty much.
yeah. And it is funny Scotty gets hit. It makes no sense, and you can't justify it because he can see it in front of him. He's not even looking down, is he? He just hits it in front of him. Yeah, it's nonsensical.
Yeah, he's looking down. I know this ship like the back of my. He's kind of looking at the floor.
Yeah,
So.
hard to justify. And how do you feel again in comparison, right? Well, I don't know if they reused any sets for Section 31. You could probably maybe say that they maybe La Serena bottom or top was the cargo ship at the end. It's got a similar, like the guts of it. I mean, I would certainly reuse that if I could. But it was at least new sets, as not interesting as they were. Is the fact that they you know, again from a Trek perspective, using a TNG corridor without a single change, that therefore devalues. Like, this is before the B, before the C.
Wasn't there was a single change? There was the odd sticker here and there that was different.
Oh, this shot in particular. I just mean this shot. Like there is a TNG unchanged corridor, which therefore means, are we saying that our corridor design has not changed in 100 years? That doesn't. I mean, that just doesn't work, right? As a for us, that'd be a, you know, instant continuity problem.
Yeah.
And it's funny because if you're using modern cameras, all you have to do is hue shift the door end post, and that'd be and like the floor, and those two things. Like, okay, it's got green doors. It can't possibly be TNG. It's like, well, yeah.
Ray Ricks, £5. Also, Cybok is actually a really interesting character, and
I really like Cybok.
And also, Star Trek V also gave us the observation room with the big old-fashioned steering wheel. That was really nice to see.
Which you can tell was Kirk. Like, just saying, I want this in my ship. What it'll do doesn't matter. I want it. So yeah.
Well, it doesn't do anything. It's just for the nautical. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, it gave us stuff that we hadn't seen before, which was great.
I mean, Section 31
added to the Enterprise.
In Section 31, we got to see a mech in Star Trek. Man, it's good, right? Right? That's what we wanted to see from a long time, right? It's good. Yeah, I can tell by your face. Yeah. And Ray says yes to my question. This is Ray Ricks' birthday today.
Happy birthday, Ray!
So very, very happy birthday. Everyone, spam wish happy birthday, because Ray's a wonderful chap. Met him in Vegas. Lovely to hang out with. Yes.
And Kyle Swinderman, $10.
Oh,
I once again must ask you both, do you have a thing for Mecha Boom Boom? Only if she's hot.
Oh dear.
BJ throws in $2. Star Trek V turbo shafts are better than Discoveries. Yes. Not at all wrong. Not at all wrong.
At least one is like the art design is a tool. The other one's like, oh my god.
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah. Guys, vote in the poll before we stop to the next Trek movie. Which one is worse, TMP or Sergeant 5 or Section 31? The last poll, I believe, had 10% and 90%. Currently at 13 and 87. So a few more of you just like Star Trek 5. I'd like some more votes. 93, let's get to 100 votes. And in fact, this is probably the closest to Section 31 in that a decent chunk of the film takes place in a non-Federation world with art design which is not at all recognisable, right? And you know that going in. Like the bar scene, it's not great, but it's not Federation. I mean, well, it kind of is, but it's not Starfleet, it's civilian, so it's fine. So there is a slight parallel there with the, what is it, pool on a water table.
Yeah.
Sure, Alien? Sure.
Yeah.
But then, yeah, I think 5 has, we said this before, has so many lovely little moments, which counteract loads of really stupid little moments, and just some bad ideas. It's both at the same time, right? And every time one hits, another one hits, so you kind of keep bouncing off each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And why did Uhura choose to let her hair go grey and then re-dye it for the next film?
Why not?
Why not?
They're always changing their hairstyles. Benjamin Stone, £5. Rick and Morty ruined heist movies for me. This suffers from that. If you go back and look from other perspective twists, some other perspectives, twists seem cheap. Huh?
I think it means
you're talking about Section 31.
The twist is, I mean, it's okay, right? It's not.
Yeah.
Not great. But there you go. That is Star Trek 5. So you're going to say Section 31 was officially worse than Star Trek 5.
Yes.
But which of the two is closer to being Section 31 quality if you had to vote on one of the two?
Either.
That's not what I asked.
I don't care. There's no answer. The motion picture is a grand epic like 2001 with lingering on long shots of beautiful visual effects. Star Trek V is a fun kind of jaunty little adventure for our crew, but it looks visually great. Like, it adds new things. It's got, and the new visual effects company also, seeing new shots of the Enterprise and stuff that feel different. So I guess if you want going for that feel different, then Star Trek V would be the closest, but you can't compare them. You can't say one's like, it's just a stupid question.
Well, I'm sorry I asked then. I won't ask again.
Well,
all right, so then you got Star Trek Generations, which is the next on the fan list of less enjoyed films. Obviously, in between we had Star Trek 6, which was pretty well liked, although I don't think either of us are the biggest fan of the mines. But everything around it is bloody gold dust, so... Oh, that's the poll. Right, do you want to read out the final results then? 98. Can we get 100 in the last few seconds?
Well, yeah, 98. There's only 98 people here, so 2 more people vote in the poll. I want to read a super chat before we move to the next thing because we're missing 2. Matthew, $5. Minus the I need Jim Kirk excuse for getting the Enterprise out to Nimbus 3, Star Trek 5 is a decent story and tries to make you think. Section 31 is just surface level.
There's also way more quotable lines in Star Trek 5.
Oh, yes.
Might be because they're slightly dumb, but like, what has God Name of Starship is excellent. It's just really, like, you know? I know you know, but like, it's so iconically, and it's not silly. Even though it is a silly line, right? I'm trying to think, what are the quotable lines in Section 31 that are like...
Mecha Boom Boom? I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. Because they're quips. I guess the don't be micro-shamist, whatever that word was, because it's such an odd concept.
Scale shaming.
Yeah, scale. There you go. Scale shaming. See, you know. I'm trying to think. Right, this is not me faking. I'm trying to think as genuine like quotes. Like, ooh.
Oh, how fun! What a fun idea. Yeah, there's none.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Matthew throws another $2 and says, if you look close, the Nimbus 3 bar is 10 forward. Yeah.
Is it?
Sure, I guess.
Really?
I never noticed.
I would have thought that would be a fresh set. Ooh, let me look at that. I mean, it makes sense, but I've never once thought that. Let's have a look. Oh, well, maybe that bar does look. I mean, really dirtied, and I mean, yeah, that might be. I mean, there's a lot of changes, but if they knew they're going to do lots of scenes in it, I get. Yeah, maybe. Yes. Huh. If you wanted to, if you're happy to repaint it afterwards, then yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Huh.
Fleetpaw, $2. Rachel Garrett, I'm a Chaos Goblin.
I just don't think she's a Chaos Goblin, so I disagree with I don't think it makes sense. So we have 103 votes. All right, now you can read out the poll strip.
Which is worse? Well, Section 31, obviously, with 88%.
But 2% more thought Final Frontier. Interesting. All right. The next one on the lineup is Generations. So, how do these two compare when you're looking at them? These are, again, some of the things that people don't like as much.
Am I going to go first again? Okay.
Oh, I'll do the poll.
I don't know why people don't like Generations. I think it's just fine. It's a good movie. It's a good blending of the two. And what don't I like? I don't know. The uniforms didn't fit at the end. There's a whole uniform schmagoggle going on. I don't know.
Well, again,
there's nothing that's bad about Generations.
Yeah, but these are we're looking at the less good of the Trek movies, right? So it's a sliding scale. So some notable things people don't like about this film is how bad Alan Ruck is in terms of doesn't make sense as a Captain Enterprise. The spend a budget on the scene on the boat, used a lot of money. The fact that TNG sets don't look anything like the show, which is very distracting, and just doesn't look or feel like the show. That's a problem. The motion ship is it canonical how it's done in the show, as in they change it and then whatever. So the space effects are not looking very good. The humor doesn't really work a lot of the time. The illogical swap of Picard with Geordi down to the planet, that doesn't make a lot of sense. The bird of prey battle doesn't make a lot of sense. The reused explosion, the Guinan stuff, the Nexus, take it or leave it. The shooting the missile up to the star, which takes less than a minute, even though it would take like 9, that doesn't make sense. Kirk's only appearance being in the Nexus with horses is none of that's particularly good, and then death by a bridge. So those are the common things that people don't like about it. But I like we said about the uniform mismatch. So those are the common complaints, as it were. What makes it a less good film.
And your poll didn't make sense, so I'd end it.
Oh shit! Sorry, I did it. Well, I'm sorry. Generations won at 57%. I guess Generation. Sorry.
Well, a lot of that was, the sets didn't look right. It's because it was different lighting. It was more cinematic, more big screen lighting. Like it felt like real sunlight coming through the windows in a lot of those scenes where they're near a star. So I think those quibbles and complaints that people have, the rocket getting to the sun again, it's like the turbolift sequences. It's just one of those things that's a convenience. The fact that Worf can lock onto it, maybe if you get enough time. I don't know. It's nitpicky for the sake of being nitpicky, is what I think for a lot of the things from Generations.
I mean, the missile especially is as big a plot hole as being able to warp to find the anomaly in 2 hours. It doesn't. You can't justify it, so it's just as big a plot hole.
It's something that happens in all forms of media, though.
Well, that means we've got to give Section 31 the grace then. Like, that's a problem. You can't then complain in Section 31 if you can't be justifiably... Like, it's got to be both or neither.
That's one of the things I least argue... I'm saying is bad about Section 31. It's always a convenience, especially in Discovery. It's always a convenience where they are and how quick it is to get to things. So... I don't know. But Picard's family's death was pointless, yes, but it was supposed to be a good character moment and character slap in the face, essentially, to make him realize that, oh shit. So that's fine.
Brutal, which is funny because for a film that's so tonal all over the place, to go that brutal, your entire family died, burned to death in a fire, which means they burned to death alive, which is brutal.
Yeah.
And then going to Christmas and having a very tonal over the place film. Because the film doesn't really know what it's trying to be necessarily. It's trying to be loads of things, and they're probably just enjoying the fact they're a movie now, and maybe they should have brought back the more of the structure of the series versus go, we can go movie. Maybe don't spend $4 million on the intro that doesn't add that much except visual. Maybe put some more money into some other stuff, and etc.
Yeah, but things get mismanaged in productions like this, unfortunately. So, classic for real, $2. LOL saw a title of Jesse's review, Corporate Slop. Jesse
Gender.
Jesse Gender. Okay.
Yeah, I wasn't sure corporate slop what that meant exactly. feel like it's more of a passion project by Kurtzman and Michelle Yeoh. How I would say.
Possibly, yeah. Kyle Swinderman, $5. Mecha Boom Boom Baby. God's Section 31 really depressed me, but you guys are helping me keep the faith of the heart. You're welcome, Kyle. Thank you for telling us that.
And if you want to go and look at our love fest for the old Treks, we have a rankings on best ships and characters for every single Trek show and show and movie. So if you want to go back and look at some TOS love, go back and look at that. They are lots of fun.
Yes. Ray Ricks, £5. I actually like Generations, apart from the death of Kirk, which could have been handled better. Yeah, the death of Kirk was not the best end for a legendary captain, I gotta say. But I love that it was carried on in the books, the Shatnerverse books.
Good books.
Yeah.
Not Janeway.
Yeah, that was...
Oh, so not Janeway fancies him. Mirror Janeway.
Oh.
That's his love interest in the books.
Yeah, but... Yeah, that definitely could have been changed to be something better and cooler. Just get him on the bridge of the Enterprise D once, for one scene. That would have been an epic moment. So yeah, there are changes that I would have made, but I mean, I can say that about probably pretty much everything that I watch. So I don't know. I like Generations more than a lot of people do as well. Like, I can forgive a lot of stuff because it still feels Star Trek. It's still trying to do a Star Trek theme. I don't know.
Yeah. Would you say Generations or Star Trek 5 has the worst story?
Probably Generations, just because there's got to be more than one or two ways to get into that freaking energy nexus. Yeah, we've tried every way over the years. Have you, though? Like, think about that, guy.
Yeah, because that's why I was just looking at these screen caps. I think most of my personal issues are the story and choices in the story, which therefore dictate the bad death. You know, those things are all story-based, and that's because I don't think the story is really strong at all. It's probably quite weak. But Star Trek 5 has a lot of interesting story stuff. It's weird, but it's an interesting story. You know, like I said, Picard beaming down. Just disable the bird of prey and beam Geordi over. Like, there's so many bad choices being made, right? It's narratively wise. They're just like, you know. And as you'd said, the simple choice of having Shatner not on the Enterprise D bridge.
Yeah.
Like,
it just seems like something people would want to see.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see Kirk's reaction to that. Like, come on.
Like, especially as they've got the choice of when and where they appear. You could have had a really touching moment in the Nexus where Picard says to Kirk, I need you on the bridge of the Enterprise. Why? Because I can't be. Well, I'll be out of date. No. You're just the hero we need. And then recuts to Picard wherever he's nexusing, like earlier in the film. So, like, it's not 5 minutes. It's because that's, again, nonsensical, right? It should be further back than 5 minutes. And then suddenly Kirk walks out in full uniform because he should look sexy, right? Give him the full reds onto the bridge. Everyone turns like, and Worf's like, Captain James T. Kirk. Hello, Mr. Worf. I've been briefed. Walks in, sits in the captain's chair. Riker's like, and he takes command. Everyone's like, I guess we're doing this now. And then suddenly we have, like, you could have made so many epic moments, and it could have crashed still.
Yeah,
would have been weird, but like, it's a film with so many, like, why do that versus this, you know? Yeah. And
to have Soren just shoot Kirk, like, come on.
Yeah.
Take out the bridge. Bridge falls on him.
Really? The acting's still phenomenal, though, of his death. That's the thing. Everyone's trying really hard, just with not the best story. Again, in my opinion. Like, I think Rutt does a great job. Shatner does a great job. I like Data's stupid stuff. It's dumb, but it's interesting. You know?
Yeah. And we got to see the Enterprise B, the launch of the Enterprise B. We got to see the bridge of the B. That was cool.
It's a brilliant
scene. It added to the legacy of the Enterprise.
Yeah, it's a really good opening, actually. That's why I wish they'd used it more than once. I mean, you can imagine somehow whatever. But again, it's just a weaker film, right? That's what we're debating. So how does then... So is anything in the Section 31 story better than this story? Super weapon, multiple universes, revenge story, a team of misfits coming together. Is there any... I mean, I'm being broad, right? Is there anything in that that's more interesting and more compelling than this?
No. because this is our crew that we just spent 7 years with, mixing with one of the most legendary captains that we grew up with. There's so much more here that it makes Section 31 just a little pinpoint in the distance as far as being important in any way. Sure, we get Rachel Garrett in Section 31, which is one of the Enterprise captains, so that's something, I suppose.
Which is pre-Garrett, so it's like,
Exactly.
would you care, inverted commas, to watch a Kirk something where he's like 14, where he's well before Kirk, right? Like he's not Kirk yet. Would that be engaging to you?
No, not really.
Well, exactly, yeah, because he's not.
Saw that
who
with
you
the
know.
2009 film at the beginning.
Yeah, there you go. Everything has lines of, right?
Yeah. Classic for real, $2. At least Kirk died on the bridge. No, he died under the bridge. The bridge was on him.
Yes. Is Generations very quotable? I mean, that's more of a comparison to Star Trek 5 again. But I wouldn't say it's very... I mean, Tonal life forms, that's definitive, right?
Yeah.
I hate
Oh
this.
my, dillweed.
Dillweed?
Dillweed. Yeah.
Which one's that?
When Kirk's making the
Oh,
Therian eggs. And...
Right. Yeah. Fire which you burn. That's a famous quote.
Yes, it's way more quotable.
Yeah.
Than Star Trek movies even. And going back to what you said earlier too about the filming on the boat.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the movie's called Generations. We're talking about generations. So you got generations of the Enterprise as well in that. You've got the sailing ship, which was cool to see.
Was cool.
The Enterprise B, got the Enterprise D. What's next? We don't know. So I don't mind that they spent money doing that. I think it was a fun little addition, and to have it on the holodeck is cool. It just shows off to a big screen audience what the holodeck's capable of, and I think that's really kind of neat. So I don't have an issue with them spending money on that necessarily. Sure, it probably could have been allocated to better places like actual uniforms for the end, but
Yeah. I mean, exactly. It's they had to reuse a DS9 uniform because they couldn't afford new uniforms, and yet they afforded full dress uniforms the entire cast. Like, it's not excusable, right? Like, that's just. I mean, it looks lovely, but it's not worth it for what they lost, or just half the cast. I don't know. It's a lot of money. I wonder if they thought they were getting more money when they did that scene. You know what I mean? Like, because you could easily lose budget as you go, right? Or something costs a bit too much, or I don't know. But I love how it's just shot like just off the harbour. You wouldn't think for a second, right? You think it's open sails. And, lovely.
I missed some super chats here.
Yes, let's talk to the lovely people out there.
Matthew DeFreitas, $2. Star Trek 7
Mm.
is my fave TNG movie,
Wow.
minus the Star Trek 6 explosions.
Damn.
One old guy's opinion, $5. Defensive pattern, Kirk Epsilon. Who said that? Which movie was it said it?
Nemesis, I guess.
Yes, it was
There's
Nemesis.
not other defensive patterns in the films, really.
Who did say that? Was that...
I assume it was Picard. I don't know.
I feel like that's a trick question.
So 82 votes in the poll, guys. Vote now. We are about the same as Final Frontier right now. We'd love to get 18 votes to get us out to 100. Let us know. So I think Section 31 is, I think, better than Generations. A very broad question, but anything like popped to mind, like, okay, on overall, I'd give that to them. I've probably got one instantly. From being forced to make additional thoughts.
I can't think of any. What's yours?
Actually, I'm just nicking right off you. If you define new characters, then the new characters in Generations is Soren and Harriman, and the new characters in Season 31, all the main cast are all funny, interesting. Mm-hmm. So the new characters are, because there aren't new characters in Generations, are all interesting. They're not. So that does it better, right, than Generations.
Sure.
Because there's more interesting and there's more quips. So that's good, right? Is it a funnier movie? Could we go that far? Because I wouldn't say Generations is funny. It has silly humor with data, but I wouldn't call it a funny film.
Yeah, there's a few more interactions that are a little bit more bantery.
Yeah, so let's say a little bit funnier. What would you say Sonic 5's funnier? I'd say 5's funnier than Generations. Like the marshmallows. Like personally, I find the Zulu, look, the skies, they're cleared. Like that's for me. I find that really funny. That little cheap little scene. I think that's really.
The sun's come out. It's a miracle.
Yeah, I love that. It's such a cute little moment. It's cheap as fuck. So that's probably a funnier movie, but
yeah.
Oh, 89 votes. Let's get to 90 at least.
Yeah, go vote on the poll, guys, real quick, and hit the like if you haven't hit like yet. Not a bad account, $5. I've never trusted Paramount, and I never will. I can never forgive them for the death of Renee. Ah, yes.
Oh, especially as he was the kid who played the other kid, because the kid played two characters, didn't he?
He played young Picard.
Yeah. Yes, there you go.
Young Picard when they got de-aged.
Yes, that's what it was. Thank you. Yeah. And yes, Sergeant Montgomery, I don't know if you saw this, but Trek Central broke that Section 31 is coming to 4K. That's part of its release. So you can get your 4K fix if you'd like.
Yay.
Which is odd, because I couldn't find a 4K version. Not that I was necessarily looking for 4K versions. But, interesting. Really? Master in 4K? That's kind of surprising.
One old guy's opinions throws in $5. The answer is Riker in Nemesis, and possible salute to Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, Battle in the Mutar Nebula. Gotcha.
Yeah, ooh. Wouldn't have caught that. Really obvious answer.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's good.
Yeah. Should we end the poll at 91 votes?
Yeah, sure.
All right, 91 votes. Same as Final Frontier. 87% of you say Section 31. 13% say Generations. Interesting. Okay. All right, where are we going next on our lineup of the less enjoyed Trek films lineup?
Probably Insurrection is my guess.
Star Trek Insurrection. Which I have to vamp for a second because that was as far as I got with the prep. Got to get the other ones in the frame.
Well, much like Star Trek V, Star Trek Insurrection kind of feels like an episode. But an episode of TNG, which it just feels like a very stretched out episode. Kind of like the motion picture as well, which was originally a episode script that they turned into a movie. So that's interesting. Insurrection's probably my least favorite of the TNG films. But again, I don't hate it.
And you wouldn't click off after 20 minutes, like some people have apparently done for Section 31.
No. Lots of really good stuff in that, from the chase with the shuttles, to Data going crazy, to, I mean, the least interesting stuff is the planet and the village. Like, that kind of stuff is kind of for me. But again, it's not a fair comparison comparing this to Section 31. Like, Section 31 is just clearly worse than all these things that we're talking about, but
but that would be no fun.
I know.
And I mean, I'm trying to be really fair, right, to these things. I'm trying to really break down what they are and aren't, and it's interesting to kind of compare. I'm trying to be, fair to all.
Nice to none. Nice. Mike Bravo, $2. Saving universe when your grandpa was in diapers. Yeah. And the way he says it, diapers.
So, like I said, it was easy to find visuals for Generations that people dislike, and 5. Much harder for Insurrection because it's more their grander problems versus small problems. So people have some problem with the silliness of the opening. You change it for the less good CGI. So step down the Baku in general. Admiral and his morals, the Baku plot and how does it make sense, Federation-y, the love plot, and how much time is done. The silly humor, you know, going through Gort. The love plot with Troy, not specifically the plot, but the fact that she did kiss him beard before and just comes across as daft, and then the ending, the murdering of the guy. There's a lot less people dislike this film as visuals, but it's more the overall.
You also forgot action figure Picard. Action Picard, like action Saru.
Well, he's in the Nemesis pictures. Because he's not quite there yet, he's just kind of like helping. There's still kind of a little bit of an archaeologist to him versus like run and gun.
Yeah, but the whole ending where he's like chasing Waffle and
sure.
on the thing. Anyway, Sergeant Montgomery, $2. Was the garbage scow an Easter egg? Sure, it's a reference.
Did they call it a garbage scow?
I don't think so.
I don't think they did. I don't recall.
They didn't say scow. They said just garbage ship.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I don't think they did call it a garbage scow. So yes, these are what people generally say is the weakest part of Insurrection that I can visualize anyway.
Oh, and the manual joystick steering. It's just stupid.
That is stupid. And the fact that it's not even a custom thing. If it was a custom thing, like, okay, fine. But it's literally off the shelf. It's like, doesn't...
It's a gaming controller. I have the exact same one.
Because, you know, we're going to do this review, you teased us previous times. Like, these are things we will say in our review and negatively talk about. So it's only fair to mention them here because they are things we would negatively comment on, right?
Yeah. BJ throws in $2. Star Trek Insurrection is my favorite TNG film. Good for you.
Can you say why? Because that is a bold play when there's first contact in play, which I guess is too dark for a lot of people. So I guess that is a simple reason.
One old guy's opinions throws in $5.
Language.
First contact battle with Borg was my favorite. Second are the two battles in Wrath of Khan. Nice. You should have joined us for our ranking of Star Trek battles. We do that kind of stuff all the time, so.
We do.
All right, 100 people here, which is great. 79 likes, also great. Hit the like button. Let's try to get to 100 likes. I think we can do it.
And also, there's 100 videos you said, which is absolutely fantastic. Vote or say now in the poll, or say now in the chat. Sorry, this is intended to be a multi-part series. If you guys are here to support and chat, etc. about it, you guys are doing great so far, no problem. But do you want to see us do the similar live by looking at the JJ films in comparison? That being 09, Into Darkness and Beyond, similar format just for those films, and then potentially on Discovery itself, which is where it spawned from. So put yes or no in the chat right now. Do you want to see a follow-up to this live this week? They're ready to go. If you guys are interested, let us know. I'll be back in 1 minute.
Perfect. So yeah, just let us know in the chat if there'll be something you're interested in, because I think we're going to do that for sure, and compare Section 31 to the daftness that is JJ Trek. Which it's one of those things. I was much less inclined to enjoy those than a lot of these, which are still good Trek movies in my opinion. But anyway, yes, sure, yes, there are some similarities. Yes, yep, yes. Flipa says, how is Captain Foley today? Absolutely awful. Thank you for asking. Not feeling at all like myself lately, but that's a whole other situation. But good to see you, Flipa. Glad you're here. Glad you could make it. Yeah, I mean, Insurrection is... All right, let's go through. I don't really have an issue with the new visual effects team working on it. I love seeing different takes on things like that. I think the visual effects were fine. It was interesting, kind of like Star Trek 5. It's like, okay, ILM might not have done it like this, but this is neat to see. The Badmiral plot, it's a Badmiral. It's a thing in Star Trek. I don't know if you know, but the story not making sense. Yeah, there are a lot of problems with it. Like, they were banished, and then I don't understand. Anyway, it's fine. And then we get the Triceratop-headed people somehow as well as part of that.
Well, they're just the servant. Yeah, they're just servant class. They just
attacked
a planet and took the people.
The romance thing is fine, but I don't like romance stuff, so it's just kind of boring for me. Don't care. The Gorch, the kind of silly humor, is kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Again, no real issue there. Yes, her saying to him, "I've never kissed you with a beard before," is bullshit. Silly stuff like that. It's fine. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of little things in this that are kind of annoying, but it almost feels like filler because it feels, like I said, like an episode of Star Trek of TNG, because it has that kind of plot. Like, these people have a fountain of youth. Can we exploit it? Or can somebody exploit it? No, we got to protect it. That's kind of cool. But Ruelfo and his face-stretching ways and all that, it just... And I don't like the murkiness and the darkness of the Badmiral plot with with Starfleet knowing about it.
They approved it. Nothing shady about it at all.
Approving this, yeah, exactly. To help all Federation citizens, not knowing that it has to be there. It has to be with the rings. Like there's problems with it, but overall, and again, it's shot funny too compared to other movies we've seen. A lot of the scenes in the ready room and stuff feel really odd with the way they're shot, and I can't quite.
Are there scenes in the ready room?
Yeah, Daughtery, whatever.
Oh yeah, Dowdy.
Yeah, talks to him in his ready room. Something about it just feels weird to me, and I can't quite put my finger on why. But yeah, I know you've overanalyzed this movie, so.
Yeah, I did my entire university final year dissertation on the moral choice and disagreeing with the film.
Yeah.
And therefore I had to fill 10,000 words and find critical sources, blah blah blah. So I think I got a B for that. I was never going to get a high mark on Star Trek because you were not going to, but whatever.
B for bad.
Well, exactly. Yeah, this film it is the problem is it's a TV show storyline in a movie format. Like, it does feel like a movie. The sets are bigger. There's more characters. The makeup's excellent. The CGI is more than you ever do in an episode. There's big action sequences. Like, there's loads of things that you wouldn't be able to do on a TV budget, even a two-parter, right? So it has a movie scale. It's just not utilised in the most interesting ways, right? They build an entire town. But does it feel like they build an entire town? No, because it's not utilised in a way that really benefits from that. You know, you get these really... Like, that opening is beautiful, but it could have been a found set in Mexico. And that would have been just as nice, right? But it's a fully built set. It's like, it doesn't feel like it, right? The rest of it's in these small sequences that, again, don't add anything. I'd rather see that money put somewhere else, because it didn't add in the way they thought it would have. Conceptually, it would. But, you couldn't have built that on a TV budget, right? It has a big scale, just not utilised in the right way, right?
Yeah. The whole lock and load thing and stuff like that, like, I enjoy the humor and stuff on that. I don't know, the humor in this is good. It's not in your face. It's subtle. It shows familiarity with each other, and I like that because I don't know.
Well, that's the irony. This is a lot more like Station 31, and the humor, it's a lot more one-liners.
Yeah, that's true.
And there are a lot more, like, small jokes. Like, Worf is going through puberty. The joke is his face. Ha ha ha. It's a good, silly, stupid joke. Could it be taken out? Yes. Does it make it look silly? Yes. Is it trying to? Yes. Are they doing it in character? Yes. Moving on, right? A lot of those same, like, so style-wise, a lot of similar joke types. But, it's not as dark as First Contact or Nemesis, right? It's a lot more humour. And also it's our cast who are, in their 50s, 60s, playing younger, in essence, as well. So they're doing young people jokes when they're all... I'm pretty sure Jonathan Frakes is dyeing his hair at this point, right? Which is fine, just... If this had been a TNG era, like, younger, would probably played better. Like, I don't mind, of course, but maybe it's a bit too, Conceptually it works because they're being de-aged gently, but whatever. But compared to Station 31 then... How does it compare in that other ways?
You made a good point in saying that the humor was similar, and it is. There's less antagonism between them because they're friends, as opposed to just being acquaintances that have worked for a couple months together. But,
I mean, certainly, like I said, the greyness of the plot. But at the end of the day, the greyness of the Admiral approving, of the Council approving the plot is because Raffle has given them the A plan which is not brutally horrible, but there's B and C layers to it that he hasn't expressed. And if they knew about those plans, they wouldn't have approved it. So they manipulated the system to get the yes, because they desperately need to not lose the Dominion. If they do, everyone dies. Therefore, let's maybe not let all of our people die on the front line, all of our injured die. Like, it's obviously worth it if you do it safely. And that was the pitch. It's when it goes beyond that it looks dodgy. That's why I feel sorry for Dougherty, because he's been told by all of his bosses to do this. And Picard's the dick, right? And he's thinking this grand save billions of lives. We've had this discussion before, but and this film is all about sacrificing billions for the sake of 170. It's the whole point of the film. It's like, well, needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many, except that's the other way around. Oops.
Yeah. BJ though, $5. First Contact is fine, but no, not big on Borg beyond TVTNG. Generation's okay. Nemesis sucked. Insurrection most like TV TNG. The vibe, dialogue, and humor.
That is true. The humor is more like the show.
Yeah,
that is true. Because this is really the Star Trek 5 of the movies. It feels more like the cast just in a movie format. Because Nemesis, half of them aren't used in First Contact. They're all used so specifically that it's like, well, Riker's being, they're all more structural. And Beverly's just sort of there.
Just sort of there. Assman 45 ACP $5.
Goodness.
I liked Insurrection, but I was like 10 when it came out.
Yeah.
I thought a 10-year-old would be bored by Insurrection, personally.
I mean, there's decent action scenes. And if you like the silly humour, then there's enough. And the pacing's not that bad. It goes through peaks and troughs. Like, it's not great, but it's not bad.
Yeah, I suppose.
And I still don't mind the green screen. The blue screen blues right at the end. Like, it would have
been so much better fixed, though.
Like, it wasn't meant to be a digital background. It wasn't meant to be blue. It was meant to be clever. But yeah, because that would have been a real bitch to change. Like, that would have been more work than a physical set.
Yeah.
But it's a really funny, like, because we associate blue screen as blue screen. It's a funny old idea.
Mm-hmm.
But also Matthew DeFreitas says, Trekyards, there's also more goodwill given to Insurrection, to a story when you're happy just be happy, to be hanging out with a cast that you've known for 10 years, Section 31, and meet everyone for the first time.
Yeah, but I really liked the interactions that they had. It's that antagonistic, like, I know you, but I don't really know you vibes. Mm-hmm. And I love the way they interacted with each other. I thought the characters and some of the dialogue in Section 31 was really good.
Or at least really fun.
Yeah, like, it's a different vibe when you've known them for a lot longer. You have that goodwill, sure. But also there's a funness with just meeting somebody and not instantly liking them or trusting them, but you know that they're a good person because they're recommended by another person that you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but anyway.
Well, yeah, and also the characters in the movie Section 31 know each other really well, so therefore you still get that instant shorthand. We don't know them, but they know them, and that kind of, they aren't assembling a team. They all have to meet each other. So it's a small thing, but yeah.
Yeah. And Fleetpaw throws in $10.
So much.
That's bullshit. You got to be using Star Trek as a project. I got an A using the Borg regarding Native American assimilation during the 18th century. Means 19th century under Andrew Jackson. Oh my God, that's BS, Sam. I'm outraged for you. I'm also outraged for you.
Really? So you
probably got to be because of spelling mistakes.
Huh. Which, if that's the case, that's a stupid system. If you can if the content doesn't matter as much as spell mistakes, then there's a problem with the system, because content should always matter over spell mistakes. But also, I used specifically the movie's situation as the principle. But if you're talking about the American assimilation of the 18th century with that as an example, that's not what I did. You'd have to actually look at Star Trek First Contact and say, this is my 10,000 words why I believe that is like the 18th century. Not 18th century is like that. There's a distinction. So I was looking at the moral question of this and how it was relating to, it was very, it was like, because I didn't really care about other things because I want to talk about the Star Trek film, right? So I was like 80%, 70% that, try to make it more intuitive and more nuanced, and versus like, let's look at 19 other examples of real worlds. Like, I don't care. I mean, some of course, but it's like about the movie, right? So, as you should do in a dissertation, look about the subject matter, not about everything else. But blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Well, one old guy's opinion throws in $5. Are the writers of the Star Trek franchise today even fans of the canon? In my opinion, it does not seem so. Mike McMahon is, Lower Deck showrunner. Aaron Waltke and the Hagemans that are in charge of Prodigy absolutely are.
Terry Matalas wrote a lot of Cousins, right?
Terry Matalas, absolutely. So yes, there are some that get in, and you can tell it. You can tell who it is by the work that they produce. But yeah, it's Kurtzman and them not so much.
Well, we've also got that this new Trek's being so long that you can have a fan of the new Trek canon of Discovery, season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever, and being hired. So they're a fan of the canon. So which the canon do you mean? Or 09 is now what? Even further away. So you could be a fan of 09, be sort of a fan of Trek canon, be a fan of JJ's stuff, and then be hired because you like that stuff. Because it's gone on so long. And you can dislike TOS and like TNG, or you dislike Voyager. Like, you know, like I would trust a Trek fan in the writers' room than all Trek.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't get into Voyager, and then I don't think you should be writing a new Trek show, because that's a lot of the fandom, a lot of the universe, a lot of the stuff not done. How can you know? It's like, yeah, you know, it's like I expect Mike Mann to have watched every single episode of Trek, new and old. Like, not the sort that says I'll click off in 10 minutes if I don't like it, right? Like, that instantly disqualifies me from judging you as a writer of Trek. It's like, no, you know, watch it all, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, and I think you'll agree with this. I Red Letter Media just released their section on review. Cool, watching it later tonight. But there's a bit that I saw, because Trek Cultures mentioned it, kind of, a clip of them, kind of. And Mike says in that bit, because I watched that bit, he said, isn't Giorgio in the Discovery timeline? That doesn't make sense, unless it's in a later season I didn't bother watching. So he's making a wrong point because he hasn't watched the show. And so it's hard to, well, you're not an expert because you haven't watched you're making a non-point that we all know is wrong instantly because we've seen it. So it's...
Yeah, and I hate that kind of thing. 74 votes on the poll, guys. Go vote on the poll. Let's try
to vote
to 100 because we're bringing this one to a
vote
wrap soon.
Yep.
Classic for real, $5. I got an A on a post-grad thesis incorporating the Borg and Grand Admiral Thrawn with screenshots from the TIE Fighter CD-ROM game.
Damn. Thrawn for the win.
Perfect.
Very nice, yeah.
Assman 45 ACP throws in $10.
Wasn't ready for that.
Have you guys read John Ford's The Final Reflection? That would make a great movie, but would conflict with the TNG Klingons, and I'm not sure they would screw it up.
I haven't, but you've referred to this one, I believe, before as the way with the different... I believe this is the one where they express how the different Klingon spies, there are Romulan spies who look like Romulans who are Klingons. I believe this is the one that explains that. In our review, I think I'll use this as the picture.
My with the spies is from FASA.
Right.
So I don't know if he incorporated that into this book. I haven't read this book. I have this book upstairs. If I did read it, it was a long time ago and I don't recall it, but yeah, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I'm an audiobook guy, so if it was an audiobook, I've more likely listened to it.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, and Dan Ben says the showrunner of Star Wars The Acolyte hired people who had never seen Star Wars to get a fresh perspective. Your thoughts?
Sounds familiar. Sounds like the 2009 movie. We don't want anybody that worked on Star Trek before to be in here. The Acolyte failed miserably. Fell flat on its face. And there's a reason for that. You're making a show for fans of a series or a genre. Fan means fanatical. Fan means somebody
mean fanatical.
is going to be your harshest critic. Let's be honest. So
Mm-hmm.
it's probably good to have some fans or people that know the content to be working on your thing. New perspectives, fine. I have no problem bringing in people that have new perspectives or want to spin a story in a new way. But they should know what came before and what made that work, so that this actually does have a fan base that makes sure that you're getting the show that you're going to be making. Because without this fan base, you wouldn't be making a show. So I think you owe it to yourself to fucking buckle down and get some people in the writer's room and that know the material. It's a problem, and I got canceled as a result. So kind of says it all right there, doesn't it?
Yeah, and fresh perspective is interesting because you can have fresh perspective as a fan. As in, I could personally bring, oh, I really want to do a new take on this. It's a fresh perspective. If you bring a non-Trek fan in, it's so fresh that they'll make mistakes. And then, at a certain point in any writer's room, if you as the writer, so say you're the writer and you said, right, let's go for Star Wars, right? Let's say, okay, I love this guy who's in, who I've seen in the books, Curly Mundy. I think he should be on our show. He'd be great. And then someone would say to him, well, he can't, he wasn't born until 8 years later. But the writer says, no, I really want him. Like, he's my go-to guy. I'm going to override this because I really love it. And the canon guy's like, okay, well, I told you, no, but we'll go for it. They write him in, they do it, everyone acknowledges it, even though his Googleable is wrong. They film it, people react to it, and they say, it was a trading card, who cares? Even though it's been the thing for the last 20 years. That's what happens when you have someone in the room, possibly, or the writer, because the writer, it does feel mean to say no to a writer who has a good idea, a creative idea. That was being a bit facetious, that example, because it actually happened and got through. But if you start to whatever the writer, or even say like one of these Trek movies, oh, we've done that before. Or like, I mean, I can imagine, for Section 31, if there was a big Trekkie in the audience and they said, oh, you can't warp to the anomaly in 30 minutes. It's too fast. No, we can't well, how long will it take? About 2 weeks? We can't take 2 weeks off the plot. Well, they need to get there that afternoon. And then what do you do, right? What do you do? But the point is you don't write yourself into those situations. You say, okay, well, they can't be this. We'll go back a few steps, 50 pages, and we'll rewrite this bit. You know, you fix the problem, but they just continued with the problem, right?
Yeah. Ray Rex, £5. This is my answer when people ask me why I have watched every episode of Discovery, even though I don't think it is great. Yes, you need to be able to watch everything to have an educated opinion on why it's not good.
Yeah. And Dan also says, an interview with the actresses from Stranger World, who plays La'an, who's lovely. She mentions not knowing Star Trek and finding out how big it is with the fans and canon. Now, actors don't have to even know what Star Trek is, right? They're being paid to write, paid to read words, and the director will get the performance out of them. It's entirely irrelevant to me if the actors are Trek fans. Right? Would you agree?
No. I wish I agree with what you're saying. Like, I understand why you're saying what you're saying. Personally, though, when I hear that an actor's not a fan, I'm kind of like, you son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch.
You could have got a fan in there that could really have enjoyed what's going on around.
Well, that's interesting. But then we know that the guy that wore the mech suit was a giant Trek fan.
Yes.
And then he's being written these lines. You imagine how hard it must be sometimes. You know, if you're forced to do stuff. You know, we know that one of the guys that worked on Discovery Season 1 quit because they weren't willing to do the stuff, one of the creator people, because it's like doesn't fit canon. So if you were a Trek fan and you were having to do Discovery and the stuff wasn't making sense, wouldn't that break your heart too much? But you wouldn't want to quit because your family needs the money, right? So you'd be forcing yourself to do the stuff. You say, it's fine, doesn't matter. Like, you need to supply family for you. You know, jobs are very hard to get in industry. So isn't it better to have non-Trek fans who can just do the work well than Trek fans, as if for bad projects, right?
That's why you sneak things in where you can that makes sense, like John Hughes did and stuff. Knowing the objectives of the filmmakers to not have that stuff, you got to get that in there for the fans. I don't know. Yeah, that's a weird question. Like, if an actor's good, an actor's good, and that's fine. you can bring life to a character. You don't need another universe. I absolutely agree with you 100%. However, it just kind of upsets me when some of my favorite characters, I'm like, oh, the actor knows nothing about Star Trek. That's disappointing. You know what I mean? It's one of those things.
I don't know if you'll agree with this, and we're slightly off tangenting, but we'll get into Nemesis in a minute. So vote in the poll, guys. We want to get at least 100 votes. Would you say, if we're putting a line in the sand, right? Most actors cannot be Trek fans. On overall, it's okay, right? But if you're hiring an actor to play James T. Kirk or Jean-Luc Picard, they should be Trekkies, because then they can bring the authenticity of loving Picard and Kirk. So, because it's better to have a loving performance than not knowing who Kirk is, doing it as a character, and then being very different.
Yeah, because if you grew up enjoying those characters and the stories that they're in, and you know them, and you want to represent that character, you can kind of fall back on when you were growing up, how you saw the character and how you thought they interacted with things. Whereas if you're going in fresh as a new actor who doesn't know the character, so you watch every piece of material that they're in,
or likely not,
with an analytical eye, you're going to look at it differently. You're not going to have the heart and passion behind it. You're going to be maybe copying performances or think you know what the character's about, but you didn't grow up with it. You didn't have a soft spot for it. It's not easily recallable for you. There's two camps on that. Like both are fine, but I think one that has the passion behind it and grew up with you as well, instead of being forced to watch everything over the space of 2-3 weeks and having it crammed in. You know what I mean? Like there's a different way to take all that in, right? So
yeah, I think that's where I'd put the distinction. And we did just see that with 3 examples, right? We saw, and they're not identical because they were doing different things, but Chris Pine as James T. Kirk, the guy from Strange Worlds, who Paul Wesley as James T. Kirk, and Sam Witwer as James T. Kirk. One of them nailed Kirk to a T. That sounds a bit weird as a sentence, but that felt so authentic. But we know he slaved over that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a true, like, whoa. Paul Wesley is a fine actor, doesn't feel like Kirk. And Chris Pine doesn't feel like Kirk at all, because he's not trying to play Kirk, he's trying to play his own thing, really. So that you've seen 3 examples, and they're very, very different.
Yeah. And BJ says a lot of actors unfamiliar with the franchise will get a crash dive, a few recommended episodes, etc. Yes, but it's in those, some would say, bad episodes that a lot of people don't even think about when they think of the good episodes. There's a lot of little character moments, and you're playing a character. So if it's a character moment, a really good character moment between Troy and Riker in an episode that's not that great, like The Child or something, that speaks volumes to the character, but you don't see it because it's not on the recommended list. It's not best of both worlds where Riker's like fire, you miss the nuances of the character doing it that way.
Well, not just that, but you can look at Yesterday's Enterprise and Synergy Forever. Both are top 10. Yes, Enterprise is not any of our characters, so that's the wrong thing to look at if you're looking at character beats, because they're not our characters. And Synergy Forever, Kirk and Spock are not playing into their strengths of being ship officers and ship captains. It's so specific, you'd learn who they are as humans, but not who they are in the Trek context, and you need that as well, right? So would you agree? Absolutely,
yeah, absolutely.
And it's like Picard. Don't look at Picard from the movies. That ain't our Picard, right? That's not a good parallel. All right, so let's finish this. 96. Come on, guys, 4 more votes for the poll.
Hold on, Benjamin Stone, £2. Start with a story and then make it fit the IP. Yeah, if you want to bring something new, that's exactly right. Find somebody that has a good story idea, and then you mold the IP into the story to make it work. You don't take the IP and go, I want to make this story, so let's ignore all these parts of the canon to make it work. Yeah.
And I've made 26 Star Trek stories that I've released, and I've made way more. One of which is a multi-part story that's in depth and balancing 20 characters. I feel like I can confidently say I could write a Section 31 good movie in the Lost era.
Yeah.
I don't even think it'd be difficult. Like, people say the premise of the movie is bad. I don't think it is. It's just how they approached it. Right? Both 98 votes. We'll go look at Nemesis. So which is worse? In this case, people actually dislike Section 31 more than the other two. So Insurrection at 10% and Section 31 at 90% think it's worse. Interesting. Okay, so I think Insurrection, fair to say, it's more okay than it is bad, versus some of the other problems of the other films, right?
Yeah.
Mediocrity is its problem, not sorry, it's quality.
Classic for Real throws in $5.
Thanks so much.
You. Saw a docu about Akiva Goldsman. He's a protege of Michael Bay and really styles himself as a mini Bay. It's very clear he only cares about what's cool.
Really? I would not have guessed that from what he does. All right, so before you see the images, what would you say are the reasons people don't like Nemesis? Then let's see if we come up with similar images.
Yeah.
Sort of the common, even if you don't agree with them, the common things people say, right?
Wesley's there.
Right.
It's a dark, more serious tone. You get Picard driving a dune buggy. The fact that Tom Hardy is supposed to be a young Patrick Stewart is kind of stupid, for he's bald when we know that young Picard wasn't bald. Small thing. Oh my God, I don't know. The rape, probably worth saying. The death of Data. But that's good storytelling, honestly. The super powerful mega ship that you have to face in the Scimitar.
It's a trend, isn't it, of modern things?
Yep. That's all I can think of off the top of my head.
Yes, I was slightly more left with what are the things, because every other film we found things and whatever. Let me just get these in. The common things that people have concrete problems with. Just setting up now. Is that is out of order? Oh, could you do the poll? Why do this for the which is worse?
Sure.
Thanks so much.
Sure I can. Oh, my
Thank you so much, Mr. Stewart.
No, shut up.
I'm just a robot in a Irish Falcon's body. Right. So we're looking at Nemesis versus Section 31, guys. Which is worse? The final of the classic Trek movies, and to see how it compares, as we'll do the JJ content very, very soon. All right, so these are things that I found that I think, I was trying to think of things. The gruesome beginning. Some people think it's too much, I guess. Again, there's nothing that I agree with, but the gruesome beginning, the entire Doom buggy sequence and the idea of it, and the fact that Worf has a sound filter, which breaks all of canon. He now talks with a CGI filter. The backstory of Hardy and the clone of Shinzon, all that, the hair, whatever he said. The action, the dumbness of the second Data, releasing him, that whole bit, I guess. The rape. Don't want to include a picture of that. So the Praetor guy, the view screen blowy uppy, some of the battle elements, I guess, being a bit dumb. The plot line of cloning and making whatever young, death of Data, super weapon, and ending of not, I guess, finishing the giving a conclusive ending to Data, sort of leave it open ended, but then not really going anywhere. Is it interesting that we just could think of as many solid things? What does that say about this? Because people dig on this movie a lot.
Yeah, it's not as bad as everybody says it is again. But there's something about Nemesis that just feels off. And I can't quite place it.
Because the director was not a Star Trek fan and made lots of odd choices. Very director-led.
Interesting.
Because he's a reason for a lot of the things, right? The director.
Yeah.
I mean, specifically in this case, he was known for a lot of things.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, okay, well, the gruesome darkness of the beginning of it, I think that's very apropos to focus on how important the story is.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happening, like a takeover is going on.
Although it's interesting, again, comparing Section 31, brutal murder of a family. I mean, what's worse, that or Shinzo murdering all these Romulans in cold blood? I mean, obviously, emotionally one's worse, but this is a horrific scene. They're both horrible, right? So both have very dark intros.
Yeah.
I mean, Doombug I think's dumb. I think very few people like that. But that's just Patrick Stewart asked for it and they did it for him. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Establishment of another Soong android. It's like, oh, seriously.
I mean, I'm fine with that, personally. Certainly the Worf wrong vocal thing, that's a continuity error that they just did because he didn't like that he's a human. Okay, we broke canon for nothing. Good job, guys.
I can't say as I've noticed his voice different before, though. I've never really listened for it.
Well, he's barely in it. He's really, really... A lot of the cast are super underused. Yeah, he's got a voice filled the entire time. He just barely says anything. Shinzo's backstory, the hair, I mean, you could have just... I mean, watch TNG. No, he had hair. That's just them not watching TNG, and that feels like a big continuity error. I don't mind the stuff with the...
It's only a continuity error because they show a picture of young Picard at Starfleet Academy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, really, just have that picture have hair.
Yeah, it's making like it's them saying you guys are so dumb you can't realize it's Patrick Stewart Picard unless he's bald. Then we know he wasn't bald, and after this, so it's them not respecting their audience, and you can't justify it any other way, right? That and Worf both the same problem. So there's active added issues like Section 31, some of their plot is just problems you're adding in for the sake of it, right?
Yeah.
I don't mind the action scene with the Scorpion personally, but I think some people don't like it. The rape thing is dumb. I hate it. It's an interesting idea, but it's a horrible idea, and it's the only reason she's in the movie. Well, the wedding, but cold open. Data dying, I don't like it, but it's big at least.
And not answering like what's definitively going on with before Data is fine because they thought they were going to be making another movie.
Yes, they did.
So it's Star Trek 3, right?
Yeah, and had they known this was the last movie, they would have done a different ending. Like they thought they're getting one more, and there was a plan, and they've all been pitched ideas. Like it was more solid than you think, and it all broken down. So yeah, it is a really good cliffhanger if you're like, next time. Especially with now you've got Titan, and there's a lot of potential with like Star Trek 6, right? Excelsior. It's actually very parallel. I didn't realize that, but. Yeah.
Assman45 ACP throws in $10. One way to make Nemesis better is to make Shinzon a protagonist and him and Picard develop a father-son relationship. Yeah.
Would have been interesting. Maybe I would have said brothers, younger and older brother.
Yeah.
I don't know, because Picard's not into family of he knows how to deal with a brother, not a child. So I would have said that. But yeah, so how does Nemesis then for you compare to Section 31? Again, not liked as much. It is darker. It's not funny. There's definitely some plot problems. Although less, I think, plot holey than some of the ones we looked at today.
Yeah, it's actually funny because it's darker as it just tonally, not only tonally, but like visually as well, just like Section 31. It ends in a nebula, just like Section 31.
Yeah. With a super weapon.
Oh yeah, Sailor on radiation. Yeah. I don't know. It's again, I'd still much rather watch Nemesis, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
This feels more in line with a lot of the Section 31 choices.
Yeah, it does.
But better done. Again, it's still it's funny because you said it was directed by somebody that didn't understand Star Trek or know Star Trek, and it shows. So does Section 31. Made by people who don't really know Star Trek. That's ironic. Wow. Yeah.
But obviously this movie had the fallback of a full cast. The sets all exist. Like, they were building... The director wasn't allowed to change the bridge. He wasn't allowed... Like, there wasn't that... If some of the sets looked different, the uniforms were different, if that all got a facelift because he's a new director, then the film would be much worse represented, right? At least this is just a less well-done Trek movie because of... the filmmaking bits. Now, and we said this many a time, had you seen, and there's a video coming out very soon, guys, where Section 31 the film respects a bit of canon beautifully, and all credit to them. Like, no bullshit. Well, hashtag yay. Had Section 31 the film, and you'd said this in our review, which if either the opening or the ending, but I think the opening could have been amazing, have an Excelsior class warp in, you have an LED wall based Excelsior bridge with, you know, a captain and a yeoman, or, you know, Lieutenant Garrett in full Wrath of Khan walks up with full props and costumes to the captain, has a scene with them, everything's 100% right, and then the captain says, "You're being assigned a new mission, Garrett. Why is that? You're needed, whatever." And then hard cut, go to another scene. Set the mood in Trek, 100%, no ifs or buts, and then have her then be annoyed she has to go out of the Federation to do a mission. Instantly would raise the film. Yeah. I mean, how much would you say? A point, 2 points, 3 points in your vibe?
At least a point, possibly two.
Yeah.
Yes. Scottish Nightmare says Into Darkness is the worst movie. Well, then join us probably tomorrow when we look at comparing Section 31 to the Calvin timeline films. Because yes,
boy, if I have to find visuals for that, this will be a very full page because a lot of things right in that. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Captain maybe didn't have starships. It didn't really. I felt no connection to the final space sequences in a Star Trek movie, which is often about ships. That's not a good sign.
In what, Section 31?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That was a fine alien ship. Oh, Carlos, the famous Star Trek director. I can say that. Don't blush. There you go, what Carlos has said.
I've seen cases where someone highly familiar with franchises still mismanages a project. It unfortunately doesn't always guarantee success. Multiple variables do play a role. 100%, yeah.
And Carlos is a gorgeous example of a non-Trek fan directing gorgeous Star Trek.
Well, tell everybody what he directed there, Sam.
Carlos directed Unification, the 20 million view, unlisted, which has got to be almost a world first. Although I guess it's always a world first more as it goes up. The difference though in Unification is that it's a story more than, you know, it's a visual journey of a character, and it doesn't necessarily feel like Star Trek in terms of the direction, but it's not doing that. It's doing, like, I'd love to see Carlos, like if you'd been allowed to film on like an LED wall with a Star Trek 6 bridge, how do you direct a classic scene? Then it would define if you could direct Star Trek vibe as a non-Trek fan. Now you are, of course, but you're doing abstract beautifully with wonderful layers.
Yeah. Carlos goes on to say, in my opinion, it really comes down to taste, sensibility, advisors, and doing the homework. Nicholas Meyer and Irvin Kershner both weren't involved in either franchise prior to being hired. Yeah, Nicholas Meyer was a perfect example. Didn't know anything about Star Trek. Went in, watched all the original TOS episodes, and, you know, banged out a script, helped with and stepped away from Star Trek a little bit with the more militaristic design of the uniforms and stuff. But then
fire extinguishers on the bridge.
Yeah, people grew to love that and love the Monster Maroon. Like, so, yeah, there are instances of that. And Irving Kershner too for Star Wars. Yeah, he came in for the Empire Strikes Back. Yeah,
I mean, it partially, and it's slightly a coin flip, right? Those changes that he made were so radical in terms of visual, but people loved them. They could have said really said too militaristic. But part of it is if a director comes in and says, "I want to make my Star Wars version of Star Trek," a la J.J. Abrams, then of course you're actively trying to change it away from the core. Versus, I think, Carlos, you probably were a very talented director who wants to come in and respect what came before and do something new versus changing into something else. So you can see, and there's a really amazing videos of the parallels visually of like Star Wars visuals in '09 where they just almost copied them one to one because he's a Star Wars fan and he made a Star Wars film in Star Trek, right? Fair enough, and he got Star Wars from it, so he's made millions. Good for JJ. But then you get like Star Trek Beyond, right, where they're trying to make a Star Trek movie with what they have, the bones of the JJ verse, and you can feel the tonal difference. It's a Star Trek film in a weird lens of JJ, but it's a Star Trek film, right?
Yeah.
So I think it all depends who you hire. Like, there's loads of directors I'd love to see direct Star Trek to see how they would like find that line, you know. But you know, and this is, I don't know if you would agree, Carlos, But certainly, if I was a studio, and I went to, what director do you like that's modern, Stuart? Can you think of anybody?
No idea.
Let's go Ridley Scott, right? He did Prometheus, very different. If you told Ridley Scott, non-negotiable, say he accepted to make a Star Trek TNG movie, other than that era, like Next Generation era, but the producers, directors, the studio said, you have to use the art design as given. So this is how your uniforms look. You're not changing them, right? So taking away his creativity in that regard, but knowing what's locked in, right? Like, that is the universe you're in, go from there. Then see what they would do. If they feel they can change it, then you'll start getting skewed things, comm badges that have blinking lights and whatever. But, like, seeing how they could take... Because, like, if you make an Alien film, the Xenomorph, you're not going to change the Xenomorph that much, right? All these new directors are not going to make the Xenomorph something new. They might make a new Xenomorph, but that's a different equation. So they're sticking to this, and in fact, you look at Alien Romulus, it feels very faithful because they're building to the art design, right? So I'd love to see that sort of, like, you have to stay in this bubble because that's the universe, but those are not often given anymore.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of similarities between Nemesis and Section 31, but still Nemesis stands head and shoulders above Section 31 as far as feeling like Star Trek, even though it's the least Star Trek-y feeling one out of all the ones we've looked at, I think.
Sorry, I was reading Carlos' thing. Reset the last thing you said again? It's the most...
It's the...
What is it?
The Nemesis is the most like Section 31 out of any of the other ones we've looked at today.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
Just not funny. It wasn't not trying to be funny, this film.
No, it's a darker vibe, but totally, yeah.
Everyone's kind of grimacing at these shots or dying. There's a lot of, like, but Carlos has 2 more insights, Jeff. Want to read those out?
I mostly watch TOS and especially The Wrath of Khan when doing unification. I had the privilege of working with experts like Mike Okuda. Yeah, well, there you go. Dave Blass. There you go. Neil Smith, Sam Witwer, Lawrence Solik, and Robin Curtis. Yeah. You needed good advisors. You need good people that know the thing. He goes on to say they not only deeply understood the characters, but also provided invaluable insights throughout the production process. I would be stupid not to take their ideas and feedback.
Although,
yes, you would.
Although, question, Carlos, and obviously you didn't have the remit of a grand TV production, right? If you had an idea as a director, say you wanted Kirk to skip into a scene, and Okuda and Witwer said he wouldn't do that, but you needed it in the scene, would you override them? Because you're allowed to be the director. At what point is your vision as director able to be undone by the advisors, right? You know what I mean, Stuart? Like, if that's your vision...
Can you make him skip like Kirk would skip if Kirk skipped?
Yeah. Because if you're just told no by everybody, you're like, this will help the vision. Like, do you then just back down on your idea because the advisors? And then, of course, you have bad advisors. Then it's like, well, now we have discovery advisors who are very discovery-based, advising people to keep doing... Of course warp is a giant blue tunnel. Of course it is. Of course the speed of warp is the speed of plot. What do you mean? Of course it is, right? Then the advisors start to back in the ideas that don't quite work. See, I quite like Nemesis. It's not great. It has some really cool things in it. And, the music's great. The music's great, actually, Nemesis. I mean, the music's normally great in Trek, right? It's actually quite a broadly great thing. Makeup's great. Patrick does a great job in it. Shin's does a great job in it.
But something about it, the blanket that's over it, just feels off. And now that I know that it's like he didn't understand Star Trek at all, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah,
he came in more with his own thing, and he made just distinct choices.
And he wanted, the whole Worf voice thing just boggles my mind.
Well, it's like the director wanted them to cock the phaser rifles and the phasers. Like, that's him, because he wanted an action vibe. It's like, but you just don't do that. Like, you just don't...
Well, they did that in Picard season 3, let's be honest. Beverly cocked a phaser.
That's not how that gun works.
It's fine.
Yes, Stuart, just like that. Just like that. Yeah, so I mean, Section 31, is the story of Nemesis better than Section 31? Yes, I would say so. The fact that we use Romulus, That feels fresh in the movie, not Klingons. The space battles at the end is great. The ships are really loved, and so much so that we feel when it crashes. The Scimitar's a great design. The sets aren't great. Like, just they're okay. They're not great. But you learn something about Romulans. You know, it's a world building film as well, right? And at the end, you get a really nice catharsis of, despite the mass murder of the Romulans, we probably just made a peace point with Valdor and Donatra, or Donatra and I can't remember the general's name. Like, that's actually a really positive note to end on. Like, we just made a peace. We've taken a peace pipe with these guys. Let's help them evacuate in 30 years. And
Dan Ben makes the point of Will Riker being at the bottom of the ship with the big drop. Yeah, it's...
You can't explain it. This just doesn't work. It's broken.
Sergeant Montgomery, though, $5.
Oh.
Always thought Sela would have been a nice touch fighting alongside Picard instead of Donatra. That being said, I like Donatra.
Oh, she's wonderful.
Yeah. It would have been cool to have Sela there as well.
Yeah, and by the way, Cast, was actually a question to you. Yeah, I mean, and Sela would have been lovely as part of. Imagine Shenzon's plan, as we saw in TNG in the shadows. Picard leaves and Sela walks in full costume. She's like, "I told you he wouldn't go for it. Don't talk to me like that. You half Romulan, half human. You're full human, yes, but I know it." Okay, because they could bond. Or imagine they dated, half human, half Romulan, full human, but confused. And then Shinzel's like, "I do this to protect my child who I had with Sela." It's like, for goodness sake. He's a half Picard. He's also bald. What? He's a baby. He's allowed to be bald. So what are you going to say, Stuart? Section 31 or Nemesis is worse?
Section 31 is worse.
Okay.
But, as I said, Nemesis is the closest to the Section 31 in multiple ways.
Yes. I think there are more egregious story problems in the other films we looked at. This film is not about that. It's got other things that are problematic. Each film does poor things, right? That's why they're poor for different reasons. So yeah, do you want to finish? The poll, a few more votes would be good. And a few more super chats. I mean, honestly, guys, 2 more super chats would be absolutely golden. You guys are amazing. To close out the discussion, which I've thought very interesting.
We hit 110 likes, which I was going to ask for. So, thank you. But if you haven't hit like yet, please do so. Yeah, super chat in another 2 $5 ones would be amazing.
Absolutely amazing, yeah.
And go vote on the poll. We have 86 votes. Let's try to get to as close to 100 as possible for this one. But yeah, I think out of all the movies we've talked about today, Nemesis is the closest to Section 31 in visual style.
And tone.
Yeah. But still, I'd much rather watch Nemesis. It's still got Star Trek in my Star Trek. And Carlos says, to your point, Samuel, I was fortunate I had a Zoom conversation with Sam where we spoke about Kirk in length. He obviously nailed his personality, behavior, body language, and mannerisms. But I was fortunate to discuss with him about incorporating the elements of growth, maturity, and subtlety of Kirk into his performance, which gave me the nuanced tone and pacing I envisioned. Awesome.
Well written answer. Yeah. Basically, you planned ahead and found a lovely mutual point we could build it together. Love that. That's and Sam's obviously knows film making, from our discussion. He gets other layers. He's not just an actor. He's got other things to his bow. Yeah.
And BJ, $2. At least Section 31 gave us a sexy Dalton for 10 minutes.
I mean, we talk about things the film didn't do. But we got I would say, a valid interpretation of the Deltan female doing her thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like I learned something. I have more sympathy for... Bloody hell. Yeah. Do you have more sympathy for Decker now? Goes to a planet and every woman's if she wants to make you lose your mind for lust, she'll do it in about 3 seconds.
Sign me up. I got my passport ready to go.
You just did, yeah. But you know what I mean? If you take that as how it's meant to be, that's like a Orion level pheromone power. So, Ilea's always keeping it under wraps. She's like, I promise not to influence anybody. I promise. Because you will under my spell if I try.
Both of celibacy. Kyle Swinderman, $5.
Thank you.
Do you think, with the poor reviews of Section 31, this will finally cause a change of leadership with Trek? No, sadly, I don't. I would love that to be the case, but they'll just brush it off as, oh, the fans don't understand it. They didn't get what we were trying to do.
Or we didn't promote it well enough to get a new audience, which we were going for. Because we weren't going for the audience of Trekkies. Clearly, they wouldn't have made it the way they did if they were. It was for other people, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you, Carlos. Have a great day. We'll chat to you soon.
Thank you for joining us.
Yes, we will. Good meeting. Yeah, I don't think it'll change leadership. I mean, if the Acolyte and other, like, if the Star Wars things have fandom reviewed as poorly as they have, and they're still creating the shows, and that's a bigger franchise and one in the line. I mean, you know, every year they don't do well in toy sales. They always expect toy sales. Trek never expects toy sales, right? Yay, a line did well. Bonus! But Star Wars, like, we only sold 2 million out of the 10 we aimed for. Like, those are bad things to have done, right? Yeah. Or park visits are down by 30%. These are tangible money things. Trek has never quite had that. So if they aren't getting fired for bad, or at least, you know, we'll move them to this zone, then Trek is kind of hard to. Don't know.
Anyways.
End the poll, I guess.
Doing that right now.
Yeah.
Oh, Kyle Swinderman, their first $2, even with poor critic reviews. Yeah, they don't care. That's not the way it's set up there right now with Kurtzman in charge. Like, everybody could say that they hated everything he's done, and he still wouldn't get kicked out. I don't know. I don't know.
It is a little bit different this time in that Discovery got a lot of negative reviews, as did Picard, but they were more in the 3, 4, 5, 6 realm. This is review, and then if you could say people who want to like Trek like it, there's a lot, and then, you know, this is almost unanimously in the proper low end across the spectrum. I mean, people are saying Trek culture gave more downs than ups by a substantial margin. That's going to be a first, and I was rather pleased with them to see they give it a fair shout in that regard, right? And if even they are going to give a negative to that slant, then that tells that you would think that would be a slightly more wake-up call that universally, you know. This is the first time it's happened, so maybe.
Yeah. I don't care if anything bad happens to Alex Kurtzman. I just feel bad for the actors that were involved with this, that were looking forward to being in Star Trek, you know?
Yeah.
But Classic for Real, $2. Deltons are the new red shirts. Sure thing.
Oh.
Well, let's end this poll.
Yes.
Which is where Section 31 or Star Trek Nemesis. Well, Section 31 wins with 89%.
Okay.
Nemesis 11%. So these have all been pretty standard.
Yeah.
Same responses.
Give or take. All right, guys. Join us in for the same, but a bit less, Stuart will be able to say, but at least it feels like Star Trek. Can't use that tomorrow quite as much.
Tomorrow we'll be looking at the JJ films in regards and comparing to Section 31.
Yes.
So
the things that are right, wrong, etc., and how they are different, because we're looking at the second generation of Trek, or third generation, that'll be the yeah.
And we all know what I thought of the Kelvin films.
It sucked, and there's why.
Yep. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching.
See you tomorrow.
Tomorrow, he's Commander Cocking.
He's Captain Foley.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.